All right. Hello, everyone. I am here today on a very special podcast episode, one unlike anything I've ever done before, but I hope it will be the first of many, with what I've dubbed the dream team of Madison Imber, Luke Verhoff, and his mom, Sandra Verhoff. And the reason I asked this trio to be on the podcast today is because I'm a parent of a non-speaker. All of you listeners know my son, Rocco, who's 14. And I have gotten certified in rapid prompt method solely to help him as a non-speaker advocate for himself in the world and use his voice in the world. And a few months ago, I saw a news clip of a young man, 19-year-old Luke here, who was speaking for himself fluently using rapid prompt, using the letterboard and spelling, and sharing his thoughts quite openly and eloquently, I will add. And I was very impressed. And so I asked Luke and his team if they would be willing to come on the podcast and be my first interview with a non-speaker, and they graciously agreed. So today's podcast episode is going to be published in two different ways, both in video form on YouTube and also in audio form. So if you're listening only with audio, please know that there may be some pauses during that time. And the reason for that is it was very important for Luke to show his process. And I agreed that that was a crucial part of this episode, for people to see the time and care and energy he expends to let his voice be heard. It's not something that happens overnight. I can tell you for my own child, it's not happening overnight. So I wanted to do my due diligence in showing what it's really like for him to be a profound communicator. And I'm going to introduce Luke now more formally by the description on his website that he agreed to post himself. Luke is a non-speaker, diagnosed at age 3.5 with mild to moderate autism and a global developmental delay. After years of therapies, speech, vision, oxygen, neuro, physio, occupational, hearing, craniosacral, Luke, at age 19, finally found his voice through a letterboard. Luke believes that he was misdiagnosed, and I'm quoting Luke now when I say, "They were so wrong about me." And he wants to change that for kids like me. Already, this is one of the most powerful episodes I've ever done. And Luke's website, I'll put the link in the show notes for you, and I encourage you to visit it, was created with Luke's blessing and, quote, "no decision about us without us," and is intended to create awareness about spelling on a letterboard as a method of communication. There's an urgent need for qualified practitioners who can learn how to help non-speaking autistics like Luke, like my Rocco, find their voice. And as I got to know Luke a little bit in some introductory calls before today, I really became aware that he had a big message to share. And I'm going to read to you now, before we talk to Luke live, an open letter he wrote to psychologists. And if you're a new listener, or you're a parent to a child who's just getting acquainted with the diagnosis process, psychologists are the professionals who typically diagnose autism and developmental delays and disabilities. And there are some who are amazing, there are some who are not, just like in any other aspect of life. And here is a letter that Luke wrote to psychologists using his letterboard. "You got it wrong. Your jaw probably clenched there. Nobody likes to be wrong. I get it. But you were wrong about me, and potentially others like me. I was diagnosed at age 3, with global developmental delay. The DSM describes GDD as, GDD refers to a significant delay in 2 or more areas of development, such as cognitive, motor, communication, social, and self-help skills. I am not delayed. I have a different neurotype. I am fully intellectually intact inside a body that does not act in a typical fashion. My diagnosis dictated how the world saw and interacted with me. Therapists saw my lack of motor control and coordination as lack of understanding. I screamed internally. My school never put much effort into educating me because of your label. I learned through proximity to real learning. Your diagnosis haunts me. I have the communication disorder, but do I really? Look at me here, communicating. My family shouldn't have to fight for this method, but we continue to do so. My diagnosis still dictates my funding. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted. But I will continue my fight. I do not wish you to be my adversary. I invite you to join me. We need change at every level, and I believe that starts with you. I am no expert on what my diagnosis should be. I am a non-speaker with a motor disorder. There are millions out there like me, many of whom fight in the same revolution. Are you willing to fight with me? Spelled on a letterboard by Luke. And if you go to his homepage on his website, there's a link to this post. There's a YouTube video that you can watch as well as he shows his process in writing. Luke, thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, Sandra, and thank you, Madison, for being here to support Luke as well. I appreciate that you're here.
T-H-A-N-K-Y-O. Thank you. Sorry. O-R-H-A-V-I-N-G-M. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Luke, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being here. In not only hearing your story and watching a similar story with my own child unfold, I have seen a need for change, just like you were talking about. And I really loved how you invited people to be the change with you. Like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, rather than be your adversary. Because I think if we all work together, we're going to see change much faster. So I am so grateful you articulated that.
I-T-A-L-L, it all, S-T, Victoria, A-R-T-S-W-I-T. Keep going. It all starts with A-C-O-N-V-E-R-S-A-T-I-O-N. It all starts with a conversation.
Amen, brother. It does. And I think this is a perfect segue into some questions that I have for you, Luke, because I think many people live in a community with non-speakers and they might be curious to have a conversation with them, but they don't always know how. And I've often given the example of surfing as being a commonality between my son and his peers, because before we lived by the ocean, he had a lot of nice people who he knew, but they were always afraid to talk to him because they had nothing in common, or they didn't know how a non-speaker would react to having a conversation. And then once they had a common bond, an activity or something they shared, in his case, surfing, they weren't afraid to talk to him anymore. So I know this isn't a question that I had intended to start with, but I think it would be relevant if you feel comfortable answering. And what would you tell someone who sees a non-speaker in their community, wants to engage them in conversation, but might be nervous about it?
I-N-C-L-U. Go ahede. Which one first? D, E, include, M, E, A, N, and T, R, U, S, T, trust, I, A, M, A, go ahead, keep spelling, L, W, A, Y, S, always, L, I, S, T, Include me and trust I'm always listening.
I think that's a powerful point. It's very powerful because, as you mentioned in your open letter, people make assumptions with non-speakers about their level of understanding and hearing, which I never really understood myself, because non-speaking to me means non-speaking, but people often assume it means other things as well. So I would like to know, Luke, how did it feel for you when you did not yet have rapid prompt method or spelling as a means of communicating? How did it feel to be truly a non-speaker?
I-T-W-A. It was INFURATIN. Infuriating. I-W-A. I was. T-R-A-P. P. E-D-I-N-S-I-D-E. It was infuriating. I was trapped inside.
Yeah. And I know for many people who feel trapped inside as non-speakers, it can sometimes result in their attempt to communicate through behavior, and it doesn't always go smoothly. I know I've seen in my own child and his peers, sometimes it becomes so frustrating that they get agitated or aggressive. Did you ever find that it was difficult to control your body during frustrating moments?
ITOOKM. I took my EMOTION. Emotions. OUT. Yeah, go ahead. Out on. Sorry. STUFFIE. I took my emotions out on stuffies, stuffed animals.
I really want to acknowledge, Luke, the emotional maturity that it took for you to do that, and the control that it took for you to regulate yourself and do that, because I know when you're a teenager, it's difficult to regulate your emotions to begin with. I have two teenagers, and even my teenager who's 12 and is fully vocal sometimes has her moments of not being able to control her emotions. So I really want to pause and acknowledge you as being wiser than your years in your ability to do that in that moment, because it's not easy to do. And I meet a lot of verbal, neurotypical adults who don't do that well. So that's a really big win that sometimes can go overlooked. And I wanted to acknowledge you for that, Luke.
EHANKYO. Thank you. I. Keep going. WA. I was. LUHCKYT. I was lucky too. Sorry. V. Have. PARENTS. I was lucky to have parents. WHOAMLWAYS. Who always. SSAWM. Go ahead. Me. I was lucky to have parents who always saw me.
Yeah. So even when the world got frustrating, it sounds like home was your safe place. Your family always had your back. And did they always have your back by always presuming competence? Because I know that's something a lot of families learn later as their children get older. I know I didn't really know about presuming competence until my son was starting RPM, I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't really fully understand it. And so was that part of them really seeing you from a younger age?
Y E yes I D O N yes I don't T H I N K T H E they yeah K N E I don't think they knew T H E E yeah keep going T E N extent U E N T I yeah until S P E L L I N yes I don't think they knew the extent until spelling.
Yeah. I'm so glad you mentioned that, because I've seen, even when I facilitate communication from my own child, I'll send videos to other relatives and they're so surprised by what they see, because no one ever told them to presume competence, especially if they are grandparents, for example, and they didn't have any peers with autism or who were non-speaking. They're just now learning about this. And I actually have some friends who have a 15-year-old non-speaker who's just now getting into spelling, and it's wonderful to see. And I see the parents being really hard on themselves because they have a lot of regret that they didn't know to presume competence earlier from a younger age. They were just told, oh, your child can't do this, they can't do that. And they believed it because they were surrounded with people who spoke to them like that. And now that they're seeing differently, they're so happy, but they also feel frustration that this wasn't a normal topic of conversation from the beginning. And I know everyone here on this podcast episode believes that it should be. So when you started practicing RPM, Luke, how long did it take you to communicate as fluently as you do today?
A B O U T T W O Y E A R so 2 years A A E D E D I C A T E dedicated P R A C T I C dedicated practice
Mhm.
A T H O M about 2 years dedicated practice at home.
Dedicated practice at home. And Sandra, were you Luke's support person at home during this time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a win for you, Mom. Dedication doesn't just come from Luke in that instance. I know that it's not normal. I'll use air quotes around normal because normal isn't really anything, but normal parenting that you expect to do, it becomes a commitment. So again, I'm seeing that theme of true commitment from everyone involved. And it's just like anything else you have to learn and work at. It takes a lot of practice. And I know from being a yoga practitioner of over 20 years, some days you're in the mood to practice and some days you're not. But you do it anyway and you see the results. I think 2 years is very fast.
B U T but F I R S first S E S S I O session W I T H M A go ahead D I S O N first session with Madison I W A S Yeah, I was OPEN. But first session with Madison, I was open.
The first session with you and Luke together, he was open. Wow. Madison, how did that feel for you?
Well, it's pretty cool. I definitely credit Luke and Sandra for laying all that groundwork. I came in around their 2 year mark. I was kind of the only local option for them, even a province away. And kind of picked up a lesson first session, as I always would. Starting going through things. I knew he had experience and he derailed it. He went totally off script, didn't want anything to do with my lesson. And so we started talking a little bit, and then I came back for a second session. I tried a lesson and he didn't want anything to do with it. And so on spurred a lot of conversations. So that was last September. So we've known each other for about 9, going on 10 months.
Yeah. In the grand scheme
So
of
we had
things,
six
not a long
six
time.
hours with Madison, dedicated hours. She was just here for us of our first conversations with Luke in 19 years.
And Sandra, what was your first conversation with Luke like in 19 years?
It was pretty incredible because he was so beautiful the way he spoke. Because one of the first things I remember was him looking at me and going, "Hey, Mom, how's it feel to know I'm inside?" And I was like, wow, like I kind of knew, but I didn't know, but right, innately,
Yeah.
you just always felt there was more there, but no one ever supported or
Yeah.
guided to say that there would be. So
Yeah.
I was just like, well, here you are. And he's like, yeah, here I am, Mom. And it was pretty
Amazing.
beautiful. I can't even
Yeah.
put into words. That's the irony.
Yeah.
I
It
have
is.
no words.
Right. Right. The words you've been searching for, you receive them and you're speechless. And what other reaction is there? I mean, truly to wait that long to have a conversation with your child. And Luke, I'm going to ask you the same question in just a moment. But one of the things I always encourage my clients and my podcast listeners is to remember that their intuitive hits about their children are correct. And Sandra, you started and did that groundwork at home for 2 years every day because you knew that voice was in there with Luke. You trusted that his intelligence was fully formed. He was able to communicate. Even if you didn't see the path illuminated in front of you, you trusted there would be one. And you kept going. And I see too many families disempowered by, I'll use air quotes again, experts who say, that doesn't really work. Your child won't be able to do that. And they, instead of being someone like you or someone like me and say, oh, forget you, I'm just going to keep going on my path, they listen to that. And it ends up being something they have to reckon with later when they realize their intuition was actually right all along. And for every parent listening, I'm going to remind you that nobody knows your child better than you. There is no expert that lives with your child 24 hours a day that knows them like you do. So I have many episodes for parents around, taking your power back as a parent and trusting that inner voice, because that's what Sandra did here. And that's what she's still doing as a parent. Now, Luke, when you finally were able to talk to your family, what did that feel like for you?
ITWASTH was the GREATES was the greatest. AW. Go ahead. AWAKENING. It was the greatest awakening.
Mm, yeah. And I can imagine that having a great awakening like that brought up a whole bunch of different emotions. Was there one emotion that you felt the most in that moment?
EXCITEMENT. excitement, A N D G R I E. Which one? Excitement and grief.
Mm. Oh, I feel those things now. Yeah, excitement and grief. And I'm sure every parent who's ever experienced a moment like this, I've experienced moments like this with my own child. And I felt excitement for the same reasons you felt it. You can finally communicate with your family, and it opens up a whole world. And also, I don't know if this felt true for you, but my feeling of grief as a parent, and I can't speak for my child in this moment, was for all the people or situations who didn't get to see the real him because they passed judgment or they weren't aware of his abilities. And of course, the excitement, I think, is a really clear path, the connection to future communication. But what really prompted the grief for you, Luke, if you're open to sharing, and totally okay if you're not?
IFELTLIK, like, ILOS, loss, SOMANY. Which one? YEARSINSEID. I felt like I lost so many years inside.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I don't want to bypass that because that's a real thing. And we've heard so many other stories, like Jordan Zimmerman, for example, and other non-speakers who gain their voices one way or another in their late teens and their 20s. And it makes you wonder if they could go back and have a voice fluently from a really young age, what would their childhood have been like? How would it have been different? How would they have been treated? It brings up so many questions. And I can only speak from my background as a spiritual practitioner and teacher. It also reminds me to trust in divine timing for things. Like I have to trust in divine timing, because if I didn't trust in divine timing, I'd probably go back and have my mind consumed with regret or frustration or grief. So for me, it's the both and of the situation. It's not getting lost in the regret or the frustration, but it's also not bypassing it either, because it's very real, those years that you experience. So I want to really say to you and to everyone listening, it's okay for it to be both. It's okay to trust in divine timing and have hope for the future. And it's also okay to have moments where it feels like an injustice. And this is life, right? The duality of the light and the dark all mixed together, and powerful, powerful things to consider here.
UELLSAI. Well said.
Thank you. Luke, I would love to know, what is a goal that you now have for your communication skills now that you're open and fluent as a communicator?
IMWRITINGA. I'm writing ANOVEL. I'm writing a novel. And I'm writing a novel. And LOOKING. And looking. AFOREMPLOYMEN. I'm writing a novel and looking for employment.
Hey, I can help with that. I'm going to send this podcast episode to my publisher and let her know about your novel. And I think your voice as a writer is really important. The world needs your novels. It's a perspective that everyone would benefit from, and I'm sure really cool stories also. And do you have an idea, Luke? Do you want employment full-time as a writer or something else that speaks to you?
I-M-E, which one? X-U-P-L-O-R-I-N-G. I'm exploring R-I-G-H-T-N-O. I'm exploring right now.
Excellent. I think that's fantastic. I remember when my son was 13 last year, the school district we live in has what they call a transition meeting for all the kids who are middle school age who have autism. And they start asking me, not him, and their intentions were good. I want to make that clear. Their intentions were good. About what I think he would want to do as a career when he's 21 and done with school. And I laughed to myself because I remember thinking most of my friends, when they were 21 years old, had no idea what they wanted to do. Never mind a 13-year-old who's now being asked to make decisions. So I think it's wonderful that you're giving yourself some time to explore and see what feels really good. And to everyone listening, if you have an opportunity that you hear about or that you think would be perfect for Luke, go to his website and send it to him. Again, the website will be in the show notes, and let him know that his exploration is yielding cool opportunities, whether they're the right fit or the wrong fit. You may not know until you try them on.
I-A-L-S. I also W-A-N-T-T. Also want to B-E-P-A-I-D. Be paid. A-F-O-R-M. For my A D V O A C A C. I also want to be paid for my advocacy.
As you should. You can't pay your bills or invest for your retirement on good feelings, can you? You have to be paid for the service and the value that you bring to the world, as you should, Luke. I think that your unique perspective is important and valuable. And I know many families who would benefit from your advocacy specifically, even though we live in a world with so many different kinds of advocates. I think that you can and should be paid for your style of advocating, and it's really important. And I had what I think was a very positive meeting with a psychologist a couple of months ago for my own child. And when I spoke with her about the evaluation she does, and I felt that she was very thoughtful with non-speakers and very aware of their abilities, which was wonderful to see. She said one of her goals for all the people who come to her for their evaluations was to help them become tax-paying citizens, help them get jobs, help them live a life that they felt fulfilled by, and help them become tax-paying citizens, because that would be proof that they were fulfilling that goal for themselves. So I liked her perspective on that. I would also ask if there's anything you want to share, Luke, about that. I don't need to ask another question yet if there's something that you want to say.
And no, nothing else on that topic.
Yeah. I would love to know, it could be career-based or something else. Do you have any other goals for your life overall? And does RPM or spelling help you achieve that?
Y W A N T T O L I V E I N D E P E N D. Keep going. D E N T M L. I want to live independently.
That's an amazing goal. What are you most looking forward to about living independently?
Notthearin. Not hearing. Mybrother. Not hearing my brothers. Trasmusi. Not hearing my brother's trash music.
Yeah, I get it. We often have music challenges in our house too, very different tastes. Yeah, you can listen to whatever you want when you live by yourself or have silence, which I personally love to hear. So I love this goal, Luke, and you know to always reach out to me and let me know if there's anything that I can do to be supportive of this goal, whether it be helping you find employment or whatever. I'm here to help.
IMHOU. Yeah, keep going. PING. I'm hoping. TOSTAR. Start. TAKIN. Yeah, start taking. THE. The. CBUS. The bus. ALON. I'm hoping to start taking the bus alone.
Yeah, that's exciting. It's amazing to see how you unlocking your voice is really unlocking whole world for you. It's not just communicating, it's confidence too. It's feeling confident in other situations. And I would love to know, along with that confidence, what are you most proud of, Luke, that you've accomplished so far?
YPOETRY. My poetry. AN. You got it. D and PUBLID. Yours on. CATION. My poetry and publications.
I was going to ask, is there a way that listeners can read your poetry now, or are you waiting to publish properly before you allow the public to read your pieces?
MYWEBSITEAN and SOCIALMEDI. My website and social media.
Excellent. And everyone, I'm going to really encourage you to take the time to go to Luke's website and social media and really give yourself the gift of time and space to read through his amazing pieces so far. And it sounds like this is really just the beginning for you, Luke, in terms of your publication. You have so many amazing opportunities that are going to start to open up. They probably already are, but more and more coming. So this is fantastic to hear about. I would love to know, what would you like to tell other parents of non-speakers, particularly those whose children have not been able to communicate easily yet?
TALKEACHAN. Take a chance on RPM. IPROMIS. I promise. WEREINTHE. Take a chance on RPM. I promise we're in there.
Yeah. I promise we're in there. I feel like that's what every parent of a non-speaker has wanted to hear or been hoping to hear. I know I certainly wanted to hear it from my child for a long time and prayed that he was in there. Exactly the way you just described it. I would pray that he was in there. And I think it's so important for listeners to hear not just from me on the podcast talking about non-speakers, not that ableist way of doing it, but really to hear from you, Luke, how important this is and how valuable it is to have your perspective directly. Thank you so much for that. Is there anything else that you would like us to know about you or that you would like to share in general?
ENTERM. Yeah, which one? YVOIC. Sorry, go ahead. My voice. INTERVERSBATIO. Center my voice in the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that so much. One of the things I have had to tell people who know my child, whether it be in a school setting or a social setting, I've had to tell them for him, don't talk over him. And in fact, that's been one of the most dysregulating things for my child. He's found it really challenging when people talk over him as if he's not there. And that's when he might get frustrated or upset. It's his way of saying, before he could speak in other ways, hey, I'm here. I'm not invisible just because I'm not talking verbally with you. So centering the conversation around you, Luke. And that's why this episode is here. That's why we're doing this. And this is the first episode of a series that I would like to put together. Another subsequent episode being with Madison and hearing her perspective as a provider of RPM in regards to not only Luke's journey, but the journey of any non-speaker and how she is supporting that and the commitment that comes from her end of this equation, but also from Sandra. If you're open, I would love to have an episode with you too, hearing about the parent perspective, because so many of my listeners are parents and they're always asking a question, what can I do to be more supportive of my child on this path? And many of them will do anything, but they're not always being given the right tools or the right supports that they need to make the difference that they want to make. So I would love to have all different angles of this conversation.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
SARAINTONATO. Sarah, you are the change. THANKYOU. Sarah, you are the change. Thank you.
For anyone who's just listening, I'm taking my tissues that I left on my desk today on purpose, knowing I would need them because I knew this episode was going to be really powerful. And Luke, I'm so grateful. And I'm going to take off my professional hat for a moment and put on my parent hat. And as a parent to a young man who's finding his voice, I know it takes work every day on his part. It takes work every day for me. And some days it's easy. Some days it's really hard. And he's a little different than you in that he feels really comfortable communicating in a lesson form. He's a beautiful speller. He gets it right every time, no hesitation, nothing. But if I ask him more open-ended questions, he gets a little more nervous and a little timid to share as openly, and he's getting better, but I can see that nervousness is there for him. And I was wondering if you had any advice for Rocco on his journey that I could share with him.
A, E, E, T, G, O, I, N, keep going, T, H, E, W, O, R, L, the world, N, E, E, D, sorry, the world needs, Y, O, U, R, V, N, O, slow down, I, C, E. Keep going. The world needs your voice.
I'm gonna let Rocco watch this video and hear that for himself coming directly from you, Luke. And I really appreciate your voice and your advice for him as someone who's had to work at this and had to practice. And it means a lot to me that you're giving him that support because he doesn't have a lot of role models who he knows in person. I know a lot of other moms who supported their kids. I've met their kids on the internet, but he doesn't have a lot of role models in our local community who can support him in that way. So I really appreciate your support. And I think it's always easier to walk a path when you're not doing it alone and you don't feel isolated. So thank you for helping him to feel supported on this journey too. Before we wrap it up, is there any last thing that you want our listeners to know?
No? Did you get your message out? Yes.
You did.
Beautiful.
Beautifully, articulately, eloquently. I would say more eloquently than most neurotypical adults I know, for that matter. And
Agreed.
beautifully said. And Luke, I just want you to know I'm so thankful. I know this takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. I can't imagine how I would feel spelling out every word I had to say on a letterboard every day. So I want you to know I'm very grateful that you've taken the time and the energy to be here and to share your voice with us. And I hope that you have a fun rest of the day planned and you get to relax a little bit, because I'm sure this was a big undertaking. Although knowing you, I'm sure you're going to advocate in another fashion right now. And
Yeah.
job done. Yeah, it sounds like you have a day planned after this, but I want you to know that this is very special, and I will always welcome you back on the podcast anytime there's anything you ever want to share with us. So thank you. Thank you,
Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. And to be
Thank you.
continued with episodes 2 and 3 of this conversation, which I'm equally excited for. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And remember, you are the change. Be the change. If you took one thing away from this episode, I want you to seek out the families of non-speakers in your community who maybe you've waved hi to on the street but been too afraid to talk to, and go talk to them. And if they don't know about RPM, share this podcast episode with them and be the support that they might need to keep going. Thank you for listening, everyone. Have a great day. Take care.